Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast with Thomas Helfrich. Get ready for a thrilling adventure as we uncover entrepreneurial journeys and life-changing business insights every week. And now your host, Thomas.
Binny, thank you so much for joining the Never Been Promoted podcast, where we want to help unleash, obviously, the entrepreneur of others, but also, for you as well. I want to learn a little bit from you, but thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having me here, and hi to all your viewers and listeners.
I always say, for all 5 people listening right now, thank you so much. It's very kind. Listen, let's start with you. Give me a little backdrop on just, who you are, how you got started. Just give me a little short bio and let everyone in the audience kind of know, our listeners know of just who's Binny Gill.
Yeah, so I'm a long-time computer science enthusiast. When I was 12 years old, I started learning programming, writing games in BASIC, and also looked at assembly and say, if I program in assembly, it's going to run 1,000 times faster. Like, oh, wow. And, but I use computers to do fun stuff, and I just fell in love with that. And I've been doing that ever since. I've learned many different languages, many different technologies. I've been lucky to work in many companies, build different products. Just recently, I've been trying to unlearn all of that. And that's what's really exciting about stuff. We've been learning how to talk to machines in the language of the machines, and I've done it so much. And now the time has come for machines to learn our language so we can be natural.
Well, I think on your LinkedIn right now, it says we're hiring humans, but you're all about automation. So maybe as a backdrop or a tease, what's your perspective on this kind of initial, before we get into it, just kind of foreshadow, what's your take on this AI, intelligent automation, surge of technologies?
So yeah, when I started this company, I said, okay, I want to hire humans because I was foreseeing, this is about 3 years ago, I was foreseeing that AI will come to the point where humans and machines will become indistinguishable. And so therefore, I wanted to make sure I'm hiring humans, not AI bots on LinkedIn. But where are things going? It's going to be a very interesting, but also somewhat precarious future. Just like any other technology that has been built, there are the pros and the cons. With more power comes more responsibility. The same thing is true with AI, except maybe 100x or 1000x, multiplied. They both in terms of the speed at which it'll happen, and also the implications. In the industrial age, humans figured out one thing. It's like we used to do manual labor, and suddenly we figured out how to offload manual labor to machines. And those machines were not just as powerful as one human, but 100 humans, 1,000 humans, 1,000,000 humans. And we figured that out. We had a steering wheel in our hand. We felt safe because we could control these massive machines with that. Now, humans do mental labor as well, not just physical labor. The same thing is happening with mental labor. We are now saying, okay, here's this one machine that it's equal to a one human, fine. 100 humans, 1,000 humans, 1,000,000 humans. Imagine what's going to happen where both mental and physical gets offloaded. Where is our steering wheel is my first question, because, I think in terms of analogies all the time. So I need my steering wheel. If you give me my steering wheel for this thing that is 1,000,000 times smarter than a human, great. Okay. I'm still okay with that future. That future is what I'm really excited about. It's not necessarily about, programming and all of that. It's actually thinking about the future of humanity, or to keep it safe. My background has been, I've worked in many different places in computer science. I started with my bachelor's in IIT Kanpur in India. And then from there, I was in UiPath. It's not UIUC. That's a Freudian slip. UIUC in master's, doing security in distributed systems. Then I started in a startup in the security group. This was .com boom. So I dropped out of my PhD because I didn't want to miss the .com boom and the excitement around all of that. And
with the parents.
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe catch up with that conversation at some point. Okay, here it is, Mom.
And then very soon, as soon as I joined the company, .com market crashed. everything was, burning all over around me. And my team got laid off. I was kept because I was just fresh out of college and say, hey, you were somebody with security background. Would you care to learn about storage systems? I said, sure, anything. And that's how I got into storage. And then I went into, after that, IBM research, did 8 years of research in storage. And then the same people that I worked with earlier, we came back and started this company called Nutanix. It was a great, experience for me. 8 years again there. I stick around for a long time, 8 years and 8 years, but
I've never kept a job longer, like 18 months. So I've been asked to leave plenty of times in 8 years, but I'll just take a pause here for a second. So your first company, so you get, you and I are both kind of born out of .com and then the burning down of the .com. My first layoff, by the way, as well. But you get into the weeds. So you started a company, or you're part of a startup company. You weren't the founder, but you were part of a founding group, correct? So that's kind of maybe just a few moments on that initial thrill of you weren't quite the entrepreneur, but you're part of this. Is this like, I guess the question I'm asking is this where the foundation for entrepreneurship was founded, like in that initial startup? Was it before that or after that? I'm sorry.
There was this initial startup and this was my first job. So I was like, at the leaf level, but I saw firsthand what a startup is. And to me, that was how companies ran. But then from there, I went to IBM research. And IBM is a massive mammoth. And I could see the stark difference. I learned many good things on both sides, by the way. So in the startup, in hindsight, I learned a lot of things that should not be done. All right. Because that startup did not eventually succeed. So you get to learn a lot. And this is my, realization is building a startup is actually learning from all the mistakes you've made and other people you see made, and then just learn, right? It's not about being lucky once and, just having the best idea or anything like that. First thing is, learn from mistakes. So that experience for me was very, very valuable. There's so many things I learned and how we had amazing people, but could not succeed. So many reasons, right? So that's one thing. Going into IBM, a large company, that was about understanding managing people. And that was because in my first job, I wasn't managing people, but I saw all the components of startup, how different things work. How do you sell to a customer? Customer is unhappy. What do you do? They're shouting, all of that, right? In a very large company, we're so far away from a customer, especially in research. But now I saw the levels of people that are between you and the customer. And then you have to manage that thing and make sure everybody is feeling good about themselves. And so there's both things need to be learned. You have to manage people and then understand running a business. And then in the company after IBM, I was at Nutanix and we succeeded, IPO and beyond. That's where I learned what you should do, right? First company was what you shouldn't do. Second one is, hey, these are the things you actually should do. And then you can go from zero all the way to IPO and beyond, $1.5 billion in revenue. There's a lot of good things to learn. And at the end of this, I said, now I might be ready to start my own company. I've seen the good and bad.
What were the differences between the smart people, failed startup versus the smart people running and then success? Is it market conditions? Is it timing? Maybe what was the entrepreneurial lesson to be learned there?
Well, the biggest thing was the market condition. I mean, it just crashed. Nothing that we could have done. But then when it was crashing, that's when the bad times come up. And when bad times come, there are bad behaviors that you can observe and see, hey, this actually could have been done in a better way. So even in bad situations, companies can succeed. In fact, that is when if you have the right DNA, you will be able to succeed, whereas 99% will fail. There were some success stories, even .com crashing, and suddenly there are companies that are rising. One example is VMware. VMware actually made a ton of money, saying that, okay, you got to become more efficient. We're going to show you how to succeed. So in my previous company, Nutanix, we were partnering with VMware and eventually we started competing with VMware. Yeah, I mean, I've always had great respect for VMware there. I mean, so yeah, in adversity, there are a few people who can succeed. And that's what I learned is when it's the sunny day, all the happy bath, happy talk, that's fine. That's the easy part. It's like when you are failing, what do you do? So in my last company, there were 3 occasions when the company could have failed, just died. And in all those 3 occasions, and I called it eye of the tiger moments for the company. Okay, it's like just to rally up people, like, look, this is the eye of the tiger moment. And you have to rise up to the occasion and then fight the fight, right? It's like, when you push a tiger to the corner of a room, the tiger has no option but to attack. And that's the mentality we all had in the previous company, that when there's no other way, then you have to go attack and you have to win. And we did that not once, but 3 times in the life of the company. And that's what is needed to become a successful IPO company, right? And that's the good things I've learned. And how do you build that kind of a team? So then my realization is all about the team, Thomas. It's not about the tech or the idea, the coolness. It's the team. Have you built that tiger team who, in a happy day, they're just roaming around, lazy, whatever? That's fine. You don't know the sheer power and will that the engine has. But if you attack it, if you push it to a corner, then you'll know that, man, this is an amazing team. They'll fight for every last bit. That's my main thing is, okay, let's just build that team. The team has to be A+.
Do you have anything else? Yeah. Do you have to be so in a smaller company, like when you first start, you are the tiger. And I guess the takeaway is, if you don't have the resilience and just grit to always be attacking, so to speak, I don't think you can be lazy when you're first founding. Like when things are going great and you're a single founder, maybe a co-founder, I think everyone's got to be in that mode. Otherwise, I think you fail, right? Because if you can't take a rainy day, then you're in trouble. Yeah. And so you're talking about a very, I think, important part of entrepreneurship, which is that resilience. And that resilience, and I know personally as well, right? When you get, you think you got the products figured out or the services or whatever else, and it gets to market and it's just flat, and you're like, oh my gosh, we spent so much money on websites and marketing, it didn't hit. What do you do? Like, do you fold it up, or do you evolve? And those pivotal moments, I'd love for you to dive into, like, maybe give me a really detailed example. What was that kind of like, of the 3 pivotal moments, what was probably the most impactful, and maybe like a couple things you specifically, like, got those tigers, so to speak, together to attack?
Yeah, I mean, all 3 times it was different things that were challenging us. The first time, we just got the software architecture wrong. So we had built something that would work on VMware's hypervisor, and the hypervisor is sort of the operating system layer below our application, and that operating system layer was deadlocking. It's like, it was not built for handling storage that's sitting on top as an app. Storage was usually outside. Now, it would try to free up its memory, but it couldn't, because it would just push the data out, but it's pushing it to itself. And that it was not built for that. And our whole architecture, it was a moment where we said, shit, maybe this will never work, because this is the wrong architecture. Now we are sitting, imagine, so Christmas is coming in a week, people were in the holiday mode, and now we realize, oh shit, this is not going to work. And everybody is in the office. This is like, a mile from here. And we're in a room, everybody is silent. It's like, what do we do? What do we do? And then the CTO and the CEO, they come up and say, go to the whiteboard, we need ideas. Write one. Somebody says, let's change the product. Let's do this, right? We'll build another NetApp. It's okay. NetApp, replace NetApp, number 1, number 2. And then as people started talking, we had 25 ideas in a matter of an hour. And then we said, let's divvy this up. Everybody work on all these ideas. We're not going home. Like, basically, we spent many nights, many days just working on those ideas. And nobody ever for once thought, hey, let me leave the company and go to somewhere else. That's the thing, right? We're actually working. Now, it so happens, luckily, there are a couple of people looking at VMware itself and their next release coming up. Like, hey, what's in there, right? It is so lucky for us that the next release that VMware had did not lock up like the previous one did, all right? Why? Nobody knows. Maybe we can ask them, eventually in hindsight, I think they were also building a similar product in the future. So they figured out something, and that saved us. And then obviously after that, we didn't stop there. We said, okay, from now on, we will not depend on this underlying layer forever. So let's go. And we built a different architecture, but that took a year. But it was those few days and nights where people were trying out many things and nobody once asked, hey, maybe I need to go home and think about that. No, everybody was trying out very hard. And we had great success. 3 or 4 of these approaches, we made good inroads into how we will do it, how we will still build a business. So again, it's not about the idea. We were actually changing the idea, but keeping the team, right? And that's my learning. It's never about the idea. The market will change, big things will happen. This company, Kognitos, right? I started it before ChatGPT. Okay, and all this LLM things happen. It doesn't matter. You're focusing on solving the customer's pain point. That pain point is not going away. Technology will come and go. You just have to make sure that you're just attacking. And now we are, the only company with generative AI solving RPA problems in finance departments in production. There's nobody else out there. That is what I learned.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're talking about that's a very good distinction of you're solving a customer's problem and technology is a part of that solution.
Yeah,
but it will bend and change. I'll ask you though, do you still do the once a year or once a quarter even? What else could we be doing so you don't, and I say that because, keeping ideas fresh, looking at 90-day sprints, looking at 90-day strategies to say, hey, do we need to pivot? Do we need to add? We don't want to get once again locked up, so to speak. Do you do this now or like, hey, where else should we be going with this? What's coming out? Like what should we be doing?
Yeah. No, I do it every time I'm talking to, I'm having a one-on-one. I ask, okay, what is it that we should be doing differently? And I do it every month with everybody. As the team, we'll do it in a QBR. So we're having a 1 QBR tomorrow. We say, okay, let's challenge ourselves. What is it that we can do differently? But yeah, this is constantly in my mind. There's nothing sacred about what you've already built. What is sacred is the customer's pain point. Everything else doesn't matter. Let's just go and solve that problem. You'll never go wrong if you're making the customer happy. You'll never go wrong.
Yeah, the customer's voice is definitely the golden standard to listen to. What are they saying? What they like, don't like, need? Absolutely.
And the customer may not come up with the solution, but they know the pain. So just hear the pain from the customer, not necessarily what solution they want, and come back with a solution that delights them. And if they're not happy, then come back again and again. And that is how you get to a place where customers like you, and then they'll open up. They'll give you more problems that you can go and address and build a business around that.
We'll still take a couple of minutes. Like, we'll get back to maybe some of what you could tell yourself, if you could go back in time. I'll tease that question coming. But give me like 2-3 minutes of what you built at Kognitos. Like what's going on? What is a big problem you're solving and who is it solving it for?
So the bigger problem I'm trying to ask is, why is the world's innovation dependent on a fraction of the world's population, which we call developers? So 0.5% of the world's population knows how to write code or how to change the behavior of a computer by configuring it and programming it. Yet all of humanity depends on machines. All businesses depend on computers to do anything, right? So if a business person says, hey, I want to change how I process invoices or how I onboard a new employee or something like that, they are looking for some IT guy, IT developer to come and help them. And my question is, I've been in that space. The people who call themselves developers are actually doing only one thing. They are translating something that the business person said in a natural language to machine language. That's what they're doing. They're translators. So why do we need these translators who are highly paid and rare? Very hard to hire. There's something to learn from human to human interaction. So that's where I got an insight few years ago. It's like, there's a baby, 1-year-old baby crying. All right. Is that a language? Yes. It's a natural language, the most fundamental basic form of natural language. Even birds and animals, all of them do it. They have different kinds of cries and they can communicate. Okay. So now the baby is crying. The parent listens to the baby crying. And what does the parent say? Parent doesn't say syntax error. compilation error. You need to improve the clarity of your language, right? I mean, be more precise. What do you really mean? Parent doesn't say that. Parent says, let me guess. What's around me? Oh, there's a lollipop here. Oh, maybe there's a cake here. Like, then gives the options to the baby. Do you want lollipop? Do you want cake? And the baby could point, and boom. That is natural language, a language that humans have invented. Toddlers and babies have invented. Even all the words that we're using actually come from toddlers. You leave a few toddlers in the jungle, they'll start talking. All right? Natural language. Now let's talk about what IT developers and all of these guys do. They are speaking in a math language. So humans have invented another set of languages which we call math and math derivatives. All computer languages are derivatives of lambda calculus. It was invented in 1930s by Alonzo Church. He was a contemporary of Alan Turing. And that language is very different. If you write something in that language, it means one and only one thing. Math is in fact so universal that in a different universe, it will mean the same thing. Forget about, the physics laws could be different, but math will still mean the same thing. So that's a precise language. Now, whenever you have a precise language, you need to train people on that. The math doesn't come naturally. You have to learn the precision there. Natural language, on the other hand, says, I could be imprecise. It's your job to understand what I mean. Have a dialogue with me. I wanted to change the way machines interact with humans and stop forcing precision onto humans and be more like a parent listening to a kid crying. All right. So that's the mental change. Like, okay, can't my computer be like, okay, what do you want? And I say, add the record to the database. They say, okay, which record? And I say, oh, this record. Which database? Oh, it's Salesforce. So it is okay, fine. And then I say, by the way, the record is already there. Did you really mean to add a duplicate, or did you mean to update it, or did you not want to do anything? Tell me, right? So this is like parent. The computer knows far more than what the person could figure out. And the moment you get there, you have suddenly unlocked the power of innovation from a handful of people, like 25 million in the world, to 1 billion people. And the bottleneck goes away. So my whole mission was, let us bring machines up a level from these dark ages of, computer literacy, where very few people know that, to, the Renaissance era. Basically, everybody can now program computers, because computers are now interacting and trying to figure out what you really mean when you say something. So you don't have to understand language. So we are applying that kind of capability. We built a natural language interpreter. So it's a human language interpreter that understands English. But when I say understands English, it's actually able to ask you questions to clarify what you really mean. That's the new innovation. We started 3 years ago. Now it's ready. We're applying it to business process automation, large companies in the finance space, in the procurement, in HR, and those areas, right? Just offloading IT. So IT doesn't have to get into this RPA kind of situation. It's like enable the business people with the right tool.
Well, and that that's interesting. So you're adding, which is, I think, one of the good measures of AI, is if it can ask a question you didn't know you should have asked. And so if you can get to the point where the technology can ask a question that, oh, I didn't even think of that, you got a great tech, right? If I tie this back to like entrepreneurship, and you're solving a huge problem, not everybody can do that though, right? And not everyone can come up with a huge problem. So give maybe a bit of advice to yourself, or if you could go back in time and give advice to yourself, or to somebody who's just kind of thinking through entrepreneurship, in the idea that you're solving a big problem versus how most people start, what would you give them maybe as a piece of advice? Is you're just on the journey, you're working somewhere and you want to become an entrepreneur, or you want to like become a software lead or whatever it is, what would you tell them? Or what would you tell yourself?
I would solve something where you have felt the pain yourself, and also solve something that you feel is, if you want to make a big company, solve something where you feel it is impossible. And somebody says, oh, but it's impossible. You say, okay, that's a good validation that it is worth creating a startup around that problem, because you said it's impossible. If everybody comes and says, yeah, I see how it will happen, that is just a +1. You will not be able to make a big company out of it. Some current incumbent out there will add another feature and you'll be dead. You have to solve something impossible. And when somebody says, oh, it's hard, no, look around you. Everything around you was impossible a few decades ago, or maybe at least a century ago. I'm talking to you over Zoom. This is black magic, 100 years ago.
It's some kind of magic. I'm not sure what color it is. I don't want to be racist here.
Right? So everything, including the LED on the screen here or whatever, right? I don't know where you are in the whole world, right? You could be actually
now, Binny, in your basement. I don't know if you knew that. I moved in a couple months ago. It's called frogging with a PH.
Yeah. So it better be impossible.
Well, that's great advice. And it's not to say that you can't solve a small problem, do your well and have good marketing and branding and build a great lifestyle business. But if you're expecting a $100 billion exit and you're solving it plus one, it's just not going to happen. You won't even get an exit. You'll likely just have a job. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't go down the entrepreneur path. But I think what you're lining up is expectations. If you're trying to solve something big, it's one thing to have a crazy idea, execution's another. So not only do you have to see the problem yourself, I still think you probably have to have some kind of degree of ability to solve it or have an idea how to start. Because if you don't, you're in a spot where you're going to be dependent on others to solve your problem that you're coming up with. And that's where, if you're not specifically to technology, I think this is a big challenge for people who can see the problem and they can say, oh my God, I can solve it. I know it's solvable, but I don't know how to get that technology. What does that person do when they're non-technical founder?
See, that is exactly what I want to solve. What you just said is so broken.
That's a layup question. I was trying to.
Thank you. It's so broken. Like you just said, there is somebody smart who knows a problem, knows what the solution should look like, but they depend on an IT partner, right?
Right.
That is so broken. So you need the IT partner to just be the translator in chief who takes the idea and tells a machine what to do. Before computers existed, how did entrepreneurship work? You had a brilliant idea, you know how to do it, you just gather a bunch of people and do it, right? And the reason it worked is those bunch of people were humans, they understand human language, they understand what you mean when you say something. If they don't understand, they ask you a question. What I'm saying we need to do is to remove this bottleneck of developers from innovation cycle in the world. Imagine a smart person who understands business sitting in whichever country in the world, say, okay, I can build a new business without developers because I can explain my idea to a machine, and I'll interact and change what the machine does. It will accelerate innovation like crazy. So therefore that problem should not exist. Once Kognitos succeeds, we'll get rid of that problem. And then your question would be sort of moot. It's like, okay, no, I don't kind of depend on that tech guy.
Creates a new set of problems, right? And that leads to the next question. Maybe as you look forward, maybe the final question before we kind of get into a little speed round a little bit here of things is, what are your biggest challenges today and what are you worried about for tomorrow?
So right now, our biggest challenge is scaling. So we're at that part of the company where there is a lot to do and we have to scale and then a lot of things to develop. So the way I look at building companies is, it's when you start off in the seed stage, these are all stem cells. Seed and stem cells, like the same thing. So you hire generalists that'll wear different hats every day based on what's needed for the organism to grow. And now the organism is growing. Now at this point, it's a time to start specializing. You're trying to build those organs. Now you're going to hire the specialists who's going to create more, the organ around them. So that's the scaling problem. And that's where we are doing now. When you are scaling fast, you also have to make sure that the culture is also intact and it's growing. So you used to spend a lot of time with people, a lot of time on culture, and say, this is why we are doing things. This is the North Star where we are going. Everybody needs to understand that, especially in today's day and world where things are remote. Everybody is in the global scale. Like, so you have to make sure the organism is one organism and also growing rapidly. So it's a lot of work, but that is the main thing here. Luckily, it's a good problem to have that there's too much work from customers. So yeah, so these are the things. But anyway, a startup is all about having tough problems at all points of time. Just the nature of that problem needs to change. Every quarter, it needs to be a different problem. That means you're growing. If it's the same problem quarter over quarter, then you have a problem. And if you don't have a problem, you certainly have a problem.
I mean, it'd be good to just repeat the solution to the same problem to new customers every time and be like, I think we're just going to baseline the features here and just deliver this. That's when you exit. When you got it nailed. All right, that's when you exit.
Correct. Yeah. So you have to be comfortable all the time. If you're comfortable, yeah, it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know personally, we're a services company for my startup, but we're an important one for the sales marketing piece. I know even small company that we have, right, every 90 days, I'm looking at it and going, how can I solve a bigger problem? Do I want to? That's the other piece too, is I ask myself, do I want to solve these bigger impossible problems? Because there's two types of jobs, right? There's one building a business and there's another of raising funds. And those are two distinct separate roles that many entrepreneurs will go down. It sounds like you did a little bit of both on your journey. I love the success where it's going. I love to hear more about Kognitos, and obviously we'll stay in touch with this because I've described a problem I have. I'm a not technical enough founder. I'd say it that way. But I can see that it can be done. I just have no time or patience to do it. So if I could just talk to a machine, oh man, that would be. I'm in for that for sure. All right, so speed round. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm good.
A shameless plug type of a person. So this is just pure data collection. So we can see what you like, so I can go sell sponsorships to people. It's going to be great. All right. What's your favorite scheduling technology on the market?
Scheduling technology. I just use Google Calendar and I hate it.
I'm going to recommend something to you. I'd go with, I'm a Calendly guy myself. You said Google. That's where it ended up. It just takes too much time if you don't. Okay. I say Calendly too, because I'm part of Atlanta Tech Village and Calendly came from that. All right. Number 2, what's your favorite CRM?
CRM, HubSpot.
Very good. Favorite business book?
0 to 1, Peter Thiel.
Good one. I like that one. What's your favorite quote?
So the one that I use most is attributed incorrectly to Mahatma Gandhi, but people say that is like, first they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win.
I bet that's a part of a rap too. I thought Tupac Shakur said that at some point, but
I don't know who said it, but I really like it, and I've seen it because if you're building a startup, you got to look out for that. So there'll be a time when they're ignoring you. By the way, so Kognitos, people were ignoring us. Now we are getting into that point where they'll start ridiculing us. That's when you know that you're sort of hurting, but not too much, right? So that'll happen. It's a good thing if people ridicule you, and I'm waiting for that. I mean, like, okay, at least people are noticing. Now you'll ridicule. And then it'll be a great thing when they fight you. That's what you need before you win. You cannot win if nobody's fighting you.
If you can't compete, that's right. I mean, I'm sure lots of people, when they start saying, hey, this is solved, it's all been done, and we're like 1 year into, not even a year into GPT. So that'll be a funny, really, is it? Because I don't think it is. Yeah. All right, last question. Who's your favorite up-and-coming person to follow on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. You know what? Satya Nadella, I don't know if they call him up-and-coming. He's been there. But there's so much to learn from him. The way he has been able to make Microsoft worth so much, $2 trillion plus. Look at Amazon and look at Google and look at Microsoft. There's a very big difference. And having taken a company that was struggling and change it without, it's like changing wheels on a running car, except this car is massive. Imagine, do you remember like Windows releases would happen every 18 months, or Longhorn is coming and all that is coming. All of that is gone. Now it's like, they release quickly. And all of that happened without the company missing a beat. And Amazon was so much far ahead. Now Azure, we are looking at Azure and Amazon and Google. And what I remember from 10 years ago about Azure and now, it's very different. And now with OpenAI, it's amazing. A lot of things to learn.
It'll be, I think, that, and I appreciate that. I think your favorite cloud provider will be an AI itself that'll just be able to move it based on your needs. We're a mix of ourselves as well. If people want to get a hold of you, but typically, or want to try what you're doing, how should they get a hold of you, or what should they do?
Yeah, Kognitos.com, Kognitos with a K. The name comes from, it's an OS for cognition. That's how it started. And you can reach out on LinkedIn to me as well. Binny Gill look at me at LinkedIn, and on our website, you can find a link where you can go and subscribe and try and other things.
Awesome. Who do you want, though, to hit that link? So what's the ideal kind of person to go check out your site?
Yeah, if you are on the business side or even in IT and you want to automate business processes, but you don't want the burden of handling all the edge cases and, when things fail, if that is your nightmare, you have already tried automation and you have not liked it, then yeah, you should look at what we're trying to do. The notion of building an automation in a natural language removes one very big problem in automation, which is how do you handle the edge cases? You know what? For the edge cases, maybe you don't have to tell the machine, let the human continue to handle the edge case. And the human who used to do 100 things manually daily will now do 20 things daily or 10 things manually. Those are all the hard, crazy, variations. But the common things will go through. And the way to unlock that is the language of automation is English, that the person who used to do it manually knows what's happening. You don't need a developer to come and debug. That's the fundamental distinction. So if you think that there are some pesky tail, hard problems, yeah, let's do a mix of humans and machines, and then you'll be able to solve it.
I appreciate that, Binny. Check it out. Kognitos.com, I believe, is the address. And Binny, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've never been promoted.
Thank you, Thomas. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Never Been Promoted with Thomas Helfrich. Make sure to check the show notes for our guest contact information and any relevant links. Connect with Thomas personally at neverbeenpromoted.com.